In royal and elite circles, truth does not arrive shouting for attention. It does not chase headlines or scream in tabloids. Instead, it waits, sometimes for years, observing patterns and quietly recording behavior. That is why Victoria Beckham's words carried such weight when they finally emerged. "I have had no contact with Meghan since she borrowed those dresses and didn't return them. There was no emotion, no dramatics, no urgency. And in worlds ruled by etiquette, silence often carries more meaning than speech. By the time someone like Victoria decides to speak, private resolution has already failed. Silence in this context is observation and judgment rolled into one. And when that silence is broken publicly, it does not invite debate. It closes doors, confirms what insiders have known, and leaves no room for misinterpretation. In elite circles, people rarely accuse loudly. They simply withdraw protection. And once that protection is gone, trust becomes tangible and its loss resonates far beyond a missing garment or missed call, touching reputation, relationships, and influence in ways outsiders rarely understand. To comprehend the gravity of Victoria Beckham's statement, one must understand the mechanics of borrowing in high fashion and royal circles. This is not a casual, offhand gesture. Every garment is documented meticulously, photographed, tagged, inventoried, and tracked. Assistants are assigned responsibility. Stylists stake reputations on timely returns. Fashion houses operate on accountability as their lifeblood. If a piece disappears, consequences follow immediately. Careers can stall. Trust is questioned. Relationships strain. Designers of Victoria Beckham's stature rarely lend without deliberation, especially to figures under constant global scrutiny. When she says garments were borrowed and never returned, this is not confusion or oversight. It is a direct violation of a system designed to prevent exactly this outcome. In elite fashion, clothing is currency, credibility, and authority. Losing it is more than a financial loss. It destabilizes confidence and trust. And in a world that runs on silent agreements and observation, once trust is broken, it rarely mends quietly or completely. The timing of these loans is as critical as the items themselves. These garments were provided during Meghan Markle's first royal Christmas, a period of intense scrutiny where every appearance was analyzed globally. The pieces included premium coats, dresses, boots, and accessories worth thousands of pounds. This was not promotional dressing, no contracts, no press statements, no endorsements. The access was private and based entirely on implicit understanding that the recipient would honor the unwritten rules of fashion etiquette. In elite circles, such access is a privilege, not a right. It is extended sparingly and almost never repeated if mishandled. Designers of Victoria Beckham's caliber do not seek exposure through lending. They protect their systems, their brand, and their relationships. When trust is violated in this environment, the consequence is not confrontation, but silent withdrawal, which is far more powerful than public criticism because it signals to the entire network that reliability and respect are non-negotiable. According to multiple sources, Meghan Markle did not only receive clothing, she actively sought Victoria Beckham's personal guidance on style, on presence, and on projecting authority with grace, how to appear modern without disrespecting tradition, how to convey elegance without rigidity. Victoria responded discreetly, generously, and without expectation of recognition. She opened her wardrobe, shared her experience, and offered insight built from decades of navigating global scrutiny. No cameras, no public statement, no strategic advantage. In elite culture, such assistance is deeply personal and carries implicit expectations of understanding, respect, and discretion. When those expectations are unmet, what was intended as guidance transforms into evidence of imbalance. It lingers quietly and eventually crystallizes into an observable pattern, one that insiders watch closely and remember. Behind the scenes, the relationship reportedly began to shift as Meghan grew increasingly aware of the Beckhams' independent influence, wealth, status, and networks that existed without the need for titles or ceremony. Private jets, multiple estates, and global contacts created a sense of pressure and reportedly discomfort. Admiration slowly hardened into comparison, and comparison gradually morphed into distance. Where there had once been mutual respect, suspicion started to take root, and during this quiet estrangement, the borrowed garments remained unreturned, subtle proof of boundary violations. In high-stakes environments, these nuances are magnified. A missing garment becomes a symbol, a gesture transforms into a statement, and the absence of response becomes louder than words. What began as generosity quietly became evidence of entitlement, measured not in the clothing itself but in the response to its handling. A minor beauty-related story surfaced in the press. It was not explosive, it was barely noticed by the general public. Yet, according to sources, Meghan allegedly concluded she knew who was responsible: Victoria Beckham. Rather than resolve the matter privately, the situation escalated. Prince Harry is said to have confronted David Beckham directly. The accusation was denied firmly and without hesitation. No evidence was produced, and yet, in elite relationships, the mere presence of suspicion can fracture trust irreparably. Even unproven allegations create ripples. They are observed, internalized, and measured. In worlds where reputation is both shield and currency, this kind of suspicion quietly reshapes alliances, influences decisions, and determines who is considered reliable and who is no longer fully trusted. Despite rising tensions, the Beckhams attended the wedding. They fulfilled their public role. But when the private evening reception took place, they were excluded. In royal etiquette, exclusions of this kind are never accidental. They are calculated signals. Around this time, Victoria's team reportedly made formal requests for the return of loaned pieces. The responses, however, were delayed, vague, and non-committal. That was the moment the unspoken became undeniable. The borrowed garments were no longer regarded as loan. They were being treated as perks, as entitlement. And in elite worlds, such misalignment does not remain private. It is recorded, remembered, and quietly referenced by others who observe, waiting to see whether boundaries will be honored or ignored. In 2022, Meghan participated in a high-profile variety shoot. On the surface, everything appeared routine and professional. But months later, routine inventory checks revealed missing items: dresses, jewelry, and other high-value pieces. The issue became public after journalist Vanessa Grigoriadis discussed it on a podcast. Meghan's team claimed the items were retained to prevent potential theft by crew members. Fashion insiders were stunned. Inventory systems exist to prevent exactly this scenario. Retaining items without authorization is not protection, it is possession. When patterns like this repeat across several interactions, it is no longer a simple oversight. It becomes part of an observable behavior that changes how the industry interacts, lends, and trusts. Small missteps quietly compound into larger reputational consequences. Then came the moment insiders could no longer rationalize. An emerald green one-shoulder galvan gown first seen during the variety shoot resurfaced years later in promotional imagery for a Netflix project. Same silhouette, same fabric, same unmistakable piece. In high fashion, re-wearing a loaned garment years later communicates a single message: ownership. That single reappearance aligned years of whispers into a clear pattern. What had once been private speculation became undeniable. And in elite circles, patterns speak louder than statements. Observers do not wait for confirmation, they adjust behavior, access, and trust accordingly. One image, one rewear, one breach of etiquette can ripple across a network, signaling boundaries crossed, privileges misinterpreted, and trust withdrawn. Fashion does not issue public bans, it withdraws quietly. Designers hesitate before approving loans. Stylists impose stricter oversight. Editors issue discreet warnings. Publications reduce access from full wardrobe pulls to curated selections. Exposure, once freely given, becomes limited. Loaned couture slows, then stops. Gradually, the wardrobe changes. Fewer borrowed pieces, more owned items. Not by creative decision, but because trust has been quietly and collectively withdrawn. In elite environments, this silent treatment carries more weight than any scandal or headline. Doors close softly, invisibly, and by the time the outside world notices, the pattern is complete. Those once considered privileged suddenly find themselves navigating spaces that are carefully curated, measured, and guarded. When Victoria Beckham finally spoke, it was not for revenge, it was not to create spectacle, it was for resolution. She clarified her alignment: loyalty to the British royal family, respect for boundaries, and affirmation of professional ethics. And the outcome was unmistakable. The Beckhams did not lose access, they gained standing. Invitations followed, honors were awarded. In elite networks, loyalty compounds quietly, while reputational risk spreads faster than any headline. Victoria's measured words were not designed to punish, they were designed to signal that boundaries, once ignored, will inevitably be reinforced. The quiet enforcement of rules, subtle and deliberate, is often more powerful than any public confrontation. And in this world, silence is not absence, it is judgment. This story was never about clothes, it was about boundaries, about understanding that borrowed access is not a right. Fashion, like royalty, operates on trust, not visibility. When that trust breaks, consequences unfold slowly and deliberately. Calls stop, invitations fade, doors close quietly. Eventually, Eventually, one is left standing in designer clothing already owned, attempting to convince observers that the privileges silently removed were never necessary. The lesson is clear. In worlds of power and influence, etiquette, trust, and discretion are the true currency. When that currency is spent carelessly, the price is paid quietly, but permanently. Alright, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the Kayla Knows Royal for more royal updates.